Busy day today. We've been up to Normandy to collect some syrup for the bees. These are all the containers that I picked up. 2 lots of 2 on my truck. And when I got back, they phoned to say that my brush cutter was back from its service. So it's all been cleaned, had a sharpen, change a plug. The front bearing fixed in the wheel. That was wobbling all over the place. That's all been done. Yeah, basically a really good day. Organizing wise, so everything went well. The syrup weighs literally a ton, each one of those totes. They're 600 litres and it weighs just over 940 kilos on average. So yeah, and also the price of the syrup that I don't even know what the actual price is yet, but apparently it's gone down by 20 cents a kilo, which is a big help, because last year when we bought a load, it was kind of like at its peak. So this year we are a little bit better. Now I have a good stock because I've got those 5 there, but actually one of them is my colleague's. I've got another one from last year left there, still completely full in the corner. And I've got a third or quarter of one there as a ready mix with my hive alive that I'm using all the time, watered down 1-to-1, and that's what I'm feeding with now. So all those that are out there have all got to come into here now and be stored away. But that's fine, because now I've got enough syrup now to last me a couple of years. So it's been a really busy day. I'm really tired. Cannot wait to get to bed tonight. I'm knackered, but I wanted to get all these cleaned off and also pressure washed. The last of the spare bee escapes, they're all done now as well. So I kind of had a really productive day today, just getting all jobs like this finished. Tomorrow afternoon, back on the bees. I'm going to be looking to see if the sunflowers have yielded anything. When I looked last week, they hadn't, but it was early days, but now they're virtually done, and I want to see if they yielded anything. I also will be looking at whether the buckwheat, the second field that I was given, has yielded as well. So we're going to look at that tomorrow, and if it is yielding, I think the buckwheat, because it's actually, believe it or not, I moved 2 apiaries to 2 separate sites that were exactly, well, there or thereabouts 2 kilometers from both areas of buckwheat. So if they're both yielding, it could be really good, because bees will fly a long way and the buckwheat is really good. What they've sown is done really well. And if it's yielding, it could be good. So I'm going to look at that tomorrow. And if it is, we'll leave it there another week at least before we start to go in and do the bees. I'm going to go in and cage all the queens there. I've just got to get apiaries knocked out and the honey off, you know. Otherwise, it's going to be, I want it all done by the middle of August. So I'm ahead at the moment, but I've just got to keep that pressure on and knuckle down and just get those things knocked out. There's been a few things like this syrup, and also I've got to drive someone to Wren station in the morning, but that's early, which is good, so that won't delay me too much. So I'll be back by mid-morning after that, all being well, if the car doesn't break down, lol. But other than that, everything's good. The other problem is I'm running out of honey. I've got no honey in bottles ready or in jars ready, so I've got to get another barrel melted down, which isn't a problem, but it's just things to fit in when you're trying to do the key things like everything else. Anyway, let's go and have a look at these hives and see what they're doing and see if they're yielding. So we are up at the sunflowers. We are literally just through there. They're completely finished now. Did the colonies yield? No, none at all. So had a quick look at a few. Just lots of bees in the boxes. Plenty of bees. The other ones are even more. These are a little bit less populous, but there would have been enough to get some honey in there. But there's just no honey gone in. Drones are flying well. Let's pick another one. It's a stronger one. The reason why I'm picking a few different, because I didn't want them with a feeder on, because it's easier to show you. The feeder I've got to yank off, but if it's just a plastic, then plenty of bees in most of them, just no nectar. Looks like there's a tiny bit in there in that one. I don't know what that is. It could be sunflower, possibly. But I don't think it's going to come to much. But basically, the moving of all these hives, all the work, was really a waste of time, but it's believe it or not, it's actually easier for me to work these bees now because they're right alongside, and I'm going to work down the whole row, splitting them all, caging the queens, and obviously splitting where necessary if I can. I mean, there's a couple of colonies that are looking really strong there, with quite a few bees coming back in. But yeah, I'm just going to go down the whole row and strip them and see where we go from there. But yeah, I looked at this one before. Look, this is one of the stronger ones, really strong. No honey there. It's pointless. What I'm saying in a roundabout kind of way is it wasn't a waste of time because I can still work these. It got them moved from a current place. And the current place actually where these were from was near the mating yard, or in the mating station. And it was good to get some of the bees out of there because there was almost too many. And all the pallets needed changing in there anyway, so that can be done now before I take these back. But I've got to go, believe it or not, there's like some kind of stupid land dispute here. This is so typical after you've moved bees. The guy here who owns this bit of land is different to the guy who told me I can use this part. And he said put them on the edge, but I'm actually apparently in the edge of the other landowner. It was split property. He's put all these signs up saying private property. Long story short, basically he's jumping up and down saying, oh, you've got your hives on there, blah blah blah, and it's like going to make no difference, and this land has no planning permission. He's not going to do anything with it. He's not going to make it into a veg patch. He's just going to leave it. So like there's no issue whatsoever. Anyway, people in their land become extremely protective sometimes. I'm going to get involved in that, but these will be gone within a week, so I'll get all the bee escapes on today hopefully, and cage queens, and then come back, pull the supers off so then I can move them myself and just get out of here and get these bees ready for the winter and do all these splits because I've got queens ready. So lots of work to do. Anyway, let's get on with it. Never mind, the honey isn't everything. The bees have had a feed. I'm sure the brood boxes have had some food going in, that's the thing. Whereas they probably wouldn't have done if I'd have not brought them here. So you've got to look at it like that. So no surprises. Been through the whole lot. If you look, you can see bee escapes are all on. It's only just to clear the bees because there's quite a lot in the top box, but there's enough room for all of them. But a couple have got a tiny bit of honey on, but I think it's honey from the spring. But it hasn't crystallized, so who knows? Could be a little bit of sunflower. It didn't look like it, though. There was nothing open. But loads of bees, plenty of nook for the nukes. I've made 11 nukes there. I actually should have brought more nukes, but there you go, I've run out. I could have got 4 more splits down the end there, but hey ho, such is life. At least these are getting processed now, and we can have these the supers off in a couple of days and hopefully get them out of this place within 2 or 3 days. And then we're done. These go back to where they were before at the mating yard. So not a disastrous day, quite a good day to get that done and finished. On to the next one tomorrow, and then that cog keeps turning. The drudgery of this time of year, it is a bit drudgery, but it's not hot. At least it's not too boiling, and I'm dying in a bee suit in 30 degrees. 21, 22s today. Very, very pleasant, to be honest. There you go. Direct introduction of queens here. I like to run mine in onto the frame and I can see they've hatched. I also like to scrape a bit of honey up where I can find any and put it on the back of the queen, and then she'll be licked clean. But this colony is a little bit light on stores, so I'm going to have to come back and make sure that she's been accepted, but I think she will be. Off she goes. See the bees all starting to fan a little bit there. They're all going to start licking the queen, and I think she'll be accepted, no problem at all. I think the thing with this method is not to cage your queens too long and try and get them in as soon as you can. But my point is, by caging them in either in your cell builder when it's finishing or in a finisher, by caging them it gives you a few days if you're running late. So these, as I said, were all made yesterday. So I should be putting queens in now, but I've actually, because the queens aren't hatched, I'm going to leave them and introduce them myself so I can get a chance to look at the queen. And I do quite like having that luxury. Now this colony, for example, is absolutely full of honey. I gave it a feed frame as well, and there's feed on the frames, but you've got to watch really carefully the feed levels in these colonies. Ow, that was by mistake. For instance, this colony here, I've just been through, absolutely bone dry, no feed frame in the colony, but loads of bees, and look at that. Suddenly they're going mad on this syrup. And that's what I have syrup here for. I won't feed them all straight away, but if the colony has good provisions, I generally won't feed them while they're out mating, because I just don't see the point. I mean, in nature, as long as the colony is well fed, you know, there's kind of no need. There's no flow on, so yes, it would help, but what I'm trying to getting at is it's not urgent. As long as the colony's needs are met at the moment, if you can feed, great. If you can't, then it's no big deal. You know, it's not the end of the world. So all these that are here that I showed you before, they're all going to be moved. It's going to be room to put the next lot in, and these ones as well, but they've got to be checked one more time. They're all queen right. I've taken the feeders off. They're going to be moved up to the next apiary, and then it'll all be put in a line, blah blah blah, so that we can kind of say they are done. And this was one of the cell finishers I used. I'm just going to straighten those frames out. I can now extract that honey, get that off, and then finish that. You see, it's everything this time of year has got to be processed. So whether you're making a nuke, whether you're making a split, whether you're finishing queens, whether you're pulling honey, it all has to be done kind of in the next 2 or 3 months. More so the honey, because you don't want to have it being eaten by the bees, but at the same time it's a feed and it's on the bees. So there's that. Well, if I don't pull it straight away, it's not going to matter, because at least the bees are fed. Yes, there is that, but you don't forget you're losing your valuable honey. So all these here that I have that are resources, I'm going to stock the cell builder one more time, which is over there with cells in at the moment. So I'm going to put some emerging brood around it, cage the queens probably tomorrow in that one, because I think that's the last one to have the queens caged tomorrow, and I may even cage them this afternoon, to be honest, because then tomorrow I'm just free to do a whole day's bees. But all these have got to have virgins added tomorrow. These are all now ready to be harvested. All that's just honey here that they've made while I brought them here, and then they can be moved as well to another apiary just to get them out of the way, so I can replace it with nukes. These, for example, are nukes I made earlier. And just look how well they need transferring into a box, believe it or not. I'm going to transfer them over because they're just done so well. I wasn't expecting to have that. So, you know, it's all good. It's kind of all good news. That'll give me that box so I can renew that. And that one as well. I'll do these two. And I've got a couple of spare hives around, but most of them are now, I'm using the odd ones just to transfer the strongest colonies I made earlier in the year to just move things through. It's just... My whole point of this little bit extra on the video is just to say that that's what I'm doing, and it's so exhausting. I speak to so many other beekeepers this time of year, you know, as mates, as friends, and we're all sharing the same stuff, like, I don't know where to bloody turn. I don't know whether I'm Arthur or Martha. I just don't seem to be able to break the back of what I've got to do, because the more you do, the more you kind of create. And that's where it can be so frustrating. But it's kind of a good thing. I mean, we are so lucky with the weather this year. It's nice, it's dry, a little bit breezy today, but that's... I don't know if you can see the trees, they're moving a fair bit there. We've got a breeze from the kind of north. You can just see that. But it's pleasant. The bee suits are ventilating. You know, it's not, you're not dying in 900 degrees, which a lot of people in France and Europe this year, and I've seen in Texas, they're all sweltering in like 35, 40 degrees, and it's just unbearable. We've been so lucky. So I should just shut the hell up and just get on with my beekeeping, because I think I've been really lucky, you know. So I'm going to get these 4 in, 4 more virgins there, and then I will be to a certain point where I feel that tomorrow I can add those, and then we'll be out all day doing the next ones. It's just a question of keeping on top of it. It's funny, you raise queens and you're right on the box the day you grafted, but that you've got to remember as well that it's 10 days after you grafted that you've got to have those queens caged, because they're going to hatch on day 10 to 11. Mostly day 11, but if you've got them a little bit bigger, 12 hours earlier, they will hatch 12 hours sooner. And then you're basically going to, oh my God, the queens are hatched. One comes out early and kills the lot. So you've got to be aware of that. So anyway, whatever you're doing, take care. I'll speak to you again soon. I'm just slogging away with the grind. But it's all a good grind. It's nothing major. As you saw, the syrup has arrived. Oh, I'll just quickly mention, I've just got the price, the invoice for my syrup. I think the price this year was 72 cents a kilo. So you have to divide that by 2.2 to give you an idea of what we're paying. That's euro cents, so you'd have to do the conversion. So I paid 72 euro cents for my syrup, and I think the whole bill was something like 2,560 euros. So it's a lot of money, but that will last me 2 years. And yes, you could say, oh, what about the HFC level in your fructose syrup? There is fructose, probably half of it is fructose, saccharose and glucose. There's glucose in it as well. So I'll flash up on the screen now what it's made up of, and you can see it's called Happy Floor, and it's the one we used last year. It seems to do pretty well. But what I was saying was my bill this year, I've got a whole drum left, but I'm going to use that older drum first. And with liquid syrup, you've got to be careful the HFC level doesn't rise too much over the course of the time you have that syrup before you use it, because it's not very good to give to small colonies if they're struggling. So that's kind of something you have to take into account as well. But for me, it's the only thing I can seem to get in large quantity. I can't seem to buy large quantities of saccharose, in other words, crystalline sugar. I wish I could, but I can't find anyone to supply it to me here. Because unless you're a big supplier, they won't sell it to you in tons. They'll only sell it to you in small amounts, because every middleman wants their piece of ass, don't they? Do you know what I mean? No one wants to give it to you when they could sell it a little bit at a time. That's why we have a group purchase. So there was a 28-ton truck that delivered the syrup, and I think it was about 6 beekeepers that took part of the delivery. I've done it for 5-6 years now. The interesting thing is, I think when we first bought syrup about 8-9 years ago, I was part of it. Our syrup was of something like 46 cents a kilo, which was literally half. Well, at the time, last year would have been half of that. But this year, obviously, it's come down a bit because global prices were sky high for sugar. The last 2 years, it's gone way up, but it's come down a little bit now, so I'm very happy. So at the end of the day, I get a ready mixed syrup that I can dilute down more if I want to make a 1-to-1, and that's what I'm going to be feeding the next 3 to 5 weeks is a 1-to-1, and I'll go on the 2-to-1, which is the thick syrup later on nearer the autumn winter when my bees are clean, I've done my mating, and I'm just looking to block up the colony and make the colonies big for the winter. But see, first of all, we've got to raise those young bees. First of all, we've got to raise all the clean winter bees for this year, and that's what we're doing now. I'm caging queens, I'm getting all that ready for next year, but it's not time to plug up your hives with thick syrup. It's time to feed with 1-to-1. Look at Bob Binney's video. He's got a video on that. I think it was out last year on evidence to prove that that kind of feeding is much more beneficial to the colony this time of year because it mimics a nectar flow outside. We're still having nectar flows now. Technically, there's a little bit of clover around. We just finished on the sunflower. There was a little bit of buckwheat. It wasn't a great deal, but my point is it's still brood rearing flows. We're not looking to go into the winter yet. We're looking to think about starting raising winter bees. So we've got to think about getting our treatments on like in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You don't want to be any longer than that. But we're not raising winter bees yet. That's to come. So just feed as if it was a nectar flow. That's my advice. And by doing that, you're going to stimulate that queen to keep laying, and then you'll have loads of bees to take up the syrup when they need to at the end of the season. Don't forget we've got ivy flow to come in another month at least, maybe for 4 to 5 weeks that might start. So it's all out there to play for, just loads to do. I want to have all my honey off in the next 2 weeks. That's my goal, and I will be ahead then of the game compared to last year. So that's a bonus. So right, that was it. Take care. Bye for now.